Good afternoon, everybody. Yochanan Bechhofer here, and I've decided to learn with you a few times a week the Maharal's Sefer on Chanukah, the Ner Mitzvah. It is a very realistic goal that we will finish the Sefer in time for Chanukah or during Chanukah, as it's the irony is, as much as Chanukah is the longest holiday that we have, that it is by inception 8 days. I know we have 8 days of Sukkot, so it's not really 8 days. 7 days of Sukkot, 1 day of Simchas Torah. Chanukah is 8 days, right? And it's his smallest book, right? Whereas his books on the other Yom Tovim were much larger. So I have a special affinity for the Torah of the Maharal. First and foremost, because I'm a direct descendant, and also my Rebbe Moshe Shapira, gave us much hadracha in the writings of the Maharal. So let's take it away. What I put on the screen is a link to do the page that we are learning together from Hebrew books. If you click on that link, you'll get the page that I'm reading from. And we'll do this together. We'll do it inside because it's not such a long sefer. And let's get to work. We want to try to keep these, videos, minimal in time, but maximal in content. So without further ado, we do the first page of the Ner Mitzvah. And like I said, if you want to get it off Hebrew books, that link on the screen will take you to the page that we are doing. Okay, and I'm reading. So Ner Mitzvah, all right, Chibur Ner Mitzvah, Ner Chanukah Chutzvah, the composition Ner Mitzvah, the book is cut out on Ner Chanukah, Nofis Tuvim Dvash Areva, and it is sweeter than honey. Nofis Tuvim and Dvash are two synonyms for honey, sweeter than honey. Okay. So now the Maharal opens up with the Nevuah of Daniel. Daniel had a vision, and of course, over 2 nights. The first 3 animals he sees in night 1, and then another night he sees the 4th animal, and these animals of his dream represent the 4 evil empires that we contend with in course of world history. Bavel, Paras and Madai, Yavan, as per Chanukah, and Edom that we're still dealing with. Now, amongst the many reasons why he opens up with this is, first and foremost, one of the animals in the dream represents Yavan, and we want to analyze Yavan, right, who we went up against, we went head-to-head with during Chanukah. But it's more than that. Right? Chanukah is the last holiday in our history. And shortly after Chanukah, a short 200 years later, we go into the exile that we're stuck in until this day. So the mitzvah of Chanukah wasn't that jug of oil miraculously burnt for 8 days. We're still living off that miracle until this very day. Chanukah is the last miracle in our history, and it's got to sustain us until Mashiach comes. So it's very apropos to deal with this in course of, not just, understanding Yavan, but we're also going to understand Esav, Edom, which was the 4th animal. And we're going to discuss that also. And we have to realize Chanukah is going to have to last us all the way till Mashiach. Right? So it's is apropos to discuss, all the exiles, particularly the last one that the Nes of Chanukah has to give us the koach to see through to the end. Okay. So quoting from Daniel and Perek Zayin, im Laila. So I had this vision at night. And the 4 winds, from northwest, south, and east were like, blowing and whipping up, the great ocean, whipping up the great ocean. So 4 winds from the 4 different directions, whipping up the great ocean. Remember the number 4. And 4 animals, big animals, right? 4 big animals came out of the sea, and they were very different from each other. Kadmisa, the first one, Ka'arye, looked like a lion, but Godfrey did Neshala, right? And it had like wings of an eagle. Chaza vis adim ritu Godfrey natzis me'av ragam kenash akimas vav enosh yayevla. And I watched it until its wings got like plucked. Plucked its wings, it lost its wings, and it was removed from the earth, and it's and its standing was like a man's heart as opposed to a lion's heart, meaning this lion lost its wings. Its wings were clipped. And it went from having a lion's heart, which represents bravery, courage, right, and it lost it like a frail human heart, right? So this thing lost its power, lost its standing, lost its gusto. And then came another animal after it, second animal that looked like a bear. It was standing to one side. Vitas Iloin, before it had like 3 ribs in its mouth, like it was chewing on 3 ribs. Right, Puma in its mouth, between its teeth. And they were saying to go, baby, eat lots of meat. So Basadona Chava Visro Achare Kinam Revlo Godfin Arba the Ofal Gabe. Right, and then after that, right, I saw it came out another animal, looked like a tiger, right? Right, V'lo Godfin Arba the Ofal Gabe, and had like 4 wings of a bird on its back. Rosh, and this animal also had 4 heads. And right, and it was given rain, given real power. So in this place, I saw in a vision night, meaning the Mefarshim say this happened on a different night, to teach us that this 4th animal that we're about to learn about, which represents Edom, is as big as the other 3 combined. And we're going to talk about that later in this book. All right, so in this place, I saw in a vision of the night, right, came out a 4th animal, and it was fearsome, and it was really awe-striking and powerful, in exponentially more than the other ones. Machine the Parzan law, right, Ravravan, right, and had like teeth of iron, great teeth of iron, Achlo Medaka, right, and it was able to eat and like thoroughly grind stuff, these teeth of iron, just finely ground stuff. Vishara Braga Ravsa. And whatever's left over from what it ate, it like it stamped on with its feet. And it's different from all the animals that came before it. Vakanin Asar La, and had 10 horns. There's more to this vision in the Sefer Daniel, but the Maharal stops here. This is enough quoting from the vision for the purposes of what he wants to unpack and bring principles from for the discussion of this Sefer. All right, so now the Maharal expects you to know that these 4 animals, which by no coincidence came up after the wind came from 4 directions, these 4 animals are the 4 evil empires that we mentioned before. Bavel, Parsumadai, Yavan, and Edom. Right? Ain't talk shlo yukach b'mikra. Raki b'chayev selo she'asheder Hashem yisborach. V'im kein lama hazeh shiu arba machzos davka. Right? We have to ask. We have to raise the following question. These 4 evil empires that were prophesied about, Right? So if they were a prophecy, that means they're part of a divine plan. And if it's part of a divine plan, it can't be it happened to have been 4 bad guys, 4 bad nations. Nah, if it's part of a divine plan that the Navi is shown, and we're going to show it's not just part of a divine plan, that Daniel was shown. It's part of the actual order of the universe we're about to see, right? But we're just saying if it was prophesized, right, that Hashem is going to allow for 4 evil empires. It can't be, happy to have been 4. No, if it's a plan, so it's not by mikra, it's not by happenstance. But rather, so is dictated by the order of God's world. You see that Hashem is walking the world as God arranged it. Why are there dafka, 4 evil empires? Not 3, not 5. Why 4? Now I'm going to take it back to the very beginning of creation itself. At the time when God created the world, he already alluded to these 4 evil empires. So this is like encoded in the very order of creation. There's going to be 4 evil empires, not more, not less. And then he brings the Medrash Rabbah and Parshas Bereshis. Rishim ben Lakish pasuk Me'achos, the Rishim ben Lakish on the pasuk Tov, Vavo, V'choshech, Al Pnei Tahom, he interpreted the pasuk on these evil empires. V'or Tzaisa Tohu, the world was like shapeless. Zu Malchus Bavel, that's the Babylonian Empire. It's Bavel. Shneimar, he starts when he told the Navi says, by the destruction that Bavel wrought. I saw the world is like void, like he shattered the whole world and made it shapeless, Vo zu malchus madai and vo, and then the formlessness, and however vo is different than tohu, right? Vo refers to malchus madai, which includes paras, it's paras umadai. Shenemar vayavhilu, love his own. They hurried Haman. So vayavhilu could be an allusion to the vohu, right? That aspect of what was wrong with the world when it initially was created. So there's tohu. That was one thing that was wrong with the world, that which alludes to Babel. Vo, another thing that was wrong with the original emergence of the world, and that alludes to Paras Madai. V'choshech, and darkness, zu malchus yavan, shisha nemso b'gzerasein. This is, the darkness alludes to Yavan, Greece, that darkened our eyes with their decrees. Shaiso Mersa used to tell the Jewish people, amongst the many decrees that they decreed upon, Kisra kan ashor shelchem chelke, so God forbid, engrave on the horn of an ox. You have nothing to do with the God of Israel. Right? It's one of the things that they decreed upon us. Al Pnei Tahom, and the darkness was on over the vast depths, Tahom, the depths. Zu Malchus Ashur, that's the evil empire, meaning Edom, because of the time even when the Midrash were written, they didn't want to say Edom or Rome, because they're afraid of censorship. Right? So they just always say it's the evil empire. But the evil empire, you should know, is Rome. It's the Edom. Shein lacheker, it has no end. We can't measure an end to it, like the depth. Come on, Tom, just like the depth. Matom azen lacheker for Shoim came. Seems like the depth of the earth seemingly has no measurable end. For it seems to us, God forbid, that evil and this long, bitter Golus Edom just has no end. But the spirit of Hashem was hovering over the water, says this Medrash, Shimon ben Lakish says, that's the spirit of Melech HaMashiach. Is how do we know? It's because that's what it says regarding Mashiach. Nachalav Ruach Hashem, right? The Ruach of Hashem is going to rest upon him. So Ruach Elokim Rachefes is the soul of Melech HaMashiach. So based on Mashiach, so now in what merit will Mashiach finally come? So Mirachefes, this Ruach Elokim, this Mirachefes, it was hovering up there, Mayim, It's, hovering over the face of the water. It will come in the merit of tshuva, which is compared to water. Shenamar, as it says in Eicha, shivchi kamayim libech. Pour out like water, your heart to Hashem. So pour out like water your heart, right? So that's when we do tshuva, we pour out our heart to Hashem, spill it like water before Hashem. So that's the mayim. And so Mashiach will come in the merit of tshuva that we do, sincere tshuva, where you spill out your heart like water before Hashem. Hine timtza, so it comes out that you see, you find. Even at the time where God first created the world, Sidra Eudal Malchias, he already encoded in creation these four evil empires. The potential for these four evil empires. Right? The potential for these four evil empires to emerge was already encoded in the original emergence of creation. Right? So we have to ask, why is this? Why did Hashem arrange it that there should be these four evil empires? Ubi or zeh, right? And now to explain this, like, why, not just why are there these four evil empires meant to be, right? In a certain way, there was always the programming to allow for them, but they're already alluded to at the very beginning of creation itself. It's like we're starting off creation. Right? This is like we're talking about, this is the very second pasuk in the Torah. We're starting off the emergence of the creation with an allusion to these four evil empires. Why is that? רק נמצא חיסרון, והחיסרון הזה הם דלת מלכויות. לפי שמחס אלו ממעטים כבוד השמיים בעולמו. Right? Look, this has to do with the Sodat Tzimtzum, as the Ramchal explains it in Das Tvunis. According to when he created the world, he did not, so first of all, the world is not perfect like God is perfect. So that's already one aspect of Tzimtzum. I'm quoting from the Ramchal, but you need this Ramchal to best appreciate what the Maharal is writing here. The world's not infinite like God's infinite. Right? But says the Ramchal even more, but he was mitzamtim further, that even the non-infinite world that we're in, because everything is quantifiable. Like you could, as much as it seems that there's the vastness of space, it makes no difference. You could measure things. You could measure any given object. No object is infinite. So just because we haven't seen where space, far reaches of outer space goes, but anything that we see is obviously built on finite energy if it's quantifiable. It's b'midah, it's by measure. But it goes more than that. So not did God hold back on his ability. They didn't create an infinite world like he's infinite. But he held back on his ability even more, that the creation is not even perfect by its own standards. The creation, even by its own quantifiable standards, is imperfect. There's imperfection. That's the type of world that God created. Type of creation that God created is an imperfect world, and he did it on purpose, right? Obviously, he does everything on purpose, right? But he did it on purpose because we have to be the ones to perfect the world, right? But let's go step, right? And this is what's difficult about the Maharal. Yeah, you could translate with the Hebrew-English dictionary every word, and there's nothing, but to really understand the reasoning, there's much more unwritten in the Maharal than is actually written. And later Sfarim that came out, like the Ramchal and others, really help us appreciate. But that's what. So now let's go back into the words of Maharal. Let's read it again. Right? This world, which is a creation from Hashem, right? It's a product of Hashem. This product cannot be without any shortcomings. Right? It must have shortcomings. And this is like how I explained, as per the Ramchal, Hashem created not Lomi Baya, that he created a world that's not up to his standards of, being of infinite ability, but it's not an infinite world, right? But it's even imperfect by its own standards. It has even shortcomings by its own standards, things that need improvement. Now, as a word, what is the living personification of what's wrong with the world that still needs completion is these four evil empires. All right, and with this to explain the next step around, we need more Ramchal. Right, and that is that whatever perfection we have, right, whatever good is from Hashem. It's His energies. It's HaRav. He's emanating whatever there is. Whatever there is, whatever's good about anything is from HaRav, from Hashem, giving, and His giving is a form of revelation. We actually spoke out once, I can't remember, recently, one of our shiurim, I think it was in the Accelerate series on Torah Bechhofer, that the Maharal writes elsewhere, right, that God created light as the first thing, after these four evil empires, right, because He's fixing the world. Light is revelation, HaRav, right? It's the first act of cleaning up the world and making it a better place from the Tov Avo, Choshech and Tom is Yehi Or. Right, revelation, right? Everything that we have from God, we should appreciate it. It's Him giving us, and vice versa. How do we know that there's a God? Well, look at His creations. There's a Creator. Everything that God gives you is a form of revelation, right? So the giving and the revelation are one, and that's why the first, act of cleaning up the initial creation was light. Shefa, HaRav. Anything wrong with the world comes from Hester Panim. Anything wrong with the world is God's holding back. It's like we said before, the Tzimtzum. He's holding back on His full ability. So His holding back on His full ability, is that He's not just not giving infinite energy, He's giving finite energy, finite by hour, relative to His infinite ability. But even the finite that He's giving is also missing a little. He's holding back. So holding back is to limit His, emanation, but to limit His emanation also means to limit His revelation. And with that, you can understand very well what the Maharal is about to say, right? Right. What's wrong with the world are these four evil empires. These four evil empires mitigate God's glory, Bolamo, in His world. When the world was created by God, it was befitting, makes sense, and especially the dynamics of creation, that it's God's energies that are sustaining the world. God should be fully revealed and fully the singular master of the world, right? Because it's His world and it comes from Him. And just the opposite, the act of creation is an act of revelation, right? And that's why, by no coincidence, in the future, when we say it's going to be a perfect world, Mashiach, utopia, it's also V'Hashem L'Melech Al Kol Ha'aretz. The two go together. The full revelation of His majesty is also the shleimus of the Bria, because the revelation of His majesty is what gives existence. That's why Rosh Hashanah, right? When we coronate Hashem as king, the world renews. It's a brand new year. God's revelation of His kingdom, that is the makom of the Bria, right? That is the place of the Bria. Right, and the Gili Kvod Shemayim is the energy that optimizes creation. So the two go together, right? So it's God's world, and it's actually His reign over the world that gives the world its existence. So the world that comes from Him, the world that's owned by Him, but the world that is sustained by the revelation of His majesty. So of course it is befitting in the world. He should be the singular king, right? And there should be no other power other than Him. Just His malchus, just His kingdom, and no foreign empires. Right? So Hashem's since the world is created by God, like we said, His revelation and the gili of His malchus is what facilitates creation. It is befitting that everything should be under His domain. God created all, and like we further explained, what he's alluding to is that the emanation that he gives, that creates, is in itself the same energies that come out when he reveals his majesty. They are one and the same. Everything should be created for his glory. All right, sorry, just lost the place. But what can you do, right? The world that he created initially is lacking. It's lacking that revelation, right? The full revelation of his majesty. It's lacking, and the world is therefore called lacking. And it was by design that God's, by his divine design, that his product should not be perfect like he is, not even perfect by its own standards. So now the unwritten question that he's addressing over here is, so is that a shortcoming in God? No, because God did not beat up the world, harm the world. He didn't do bad to the world. He just withheld. So that's what he says. The void and the shortcoming is not an action. It's not like he did a negative act and punctured the world. He just never allowed a perfect world to emerge in the first place. He did not do anything bad. He did not do anything. He only did good. He created a world. That's good. He could. Just the good that he did was limited. But it's not like he created a perfect world, then he beat it up. No, it's just the world as it emerged was imperfect. But all he did was good, like give existence where there wasn't existence before. So what's missing from the Bria is not an act of malice. It's not an act of destruction. It is just that, it's the world as is. He gave. He did kindness. He gave, and this is what he gave. It is what it is. So it's called that, the lack is certainly not in God because he can do anything. The lack is in the world. This is the world. This is what it is. Why does man only have two legs? Wouldn't it be better if you have two auxiliary legs? So if your first two legs get tired, two other legs kick in. That's what man is. It is what it is. So the world is what it is. So it's not called a shortcoming in God's. It's the world is what it is, and the world is lacking. And don't say it's any type of cruelty. God is kind. The world was created with kindness, right? Just this is what he gave out of kindness. He didn't give more than that, right? But it's not like he took away or he hurt or he harmed. And it's also certainly not like for any lack of ability. God is perfect, and this is the world as is. If the world is not perfect, that's because it is what it is. It's not called an act of imperfection. No one acted imperfectly here, right? The world is what it is, right? And it's not, and the world being is what it is not by an action that it was as if something, and he punched a hole in it. God forbid. No, this is what he created. He didn't create more than that. And creation is an act of kindness. So what's lacking about it is not an action. He didn't do an act to make it lacking. He created it, and this is all he created. He didn't create more. Right? Right? The world is lacking because it's a product, and then the product can only have as much as the giver puts into it. And this is what he put into it, which is whatever he put is kindness. And from this came the shortcoming that there is, that these evil empires play out. Because what's evil about them is that they want to control the world instead of God. They want to take control of the world instead of God, and separate the world from God, that the world should be under their control and not subservient to Hashem. So since that is the root of everything that's wrong in the world, everything that's imperfect, is that the revelation of God's kingdom is incomplete. So now it makes perfect sense. The world that God created from the get-go was imperfect, right? He left room for completion. These evil empires capitalize on that void, to try to increase the void and increase the separation between the Bria and its king, that his kingdom is in itself what would optimize the Bria. the greater revelation is kingship, right? So they they capitalize on the aspect of separation, that there's a certain natural aspect of separation that there is between creation and creator. They want to capitalize on that rift, right? As it goes on, right? These four evil empires, they lessen the glory of heaven in the world because they want to take the glory for themselves and separate the world from Hashem. So they rebel against Kvod Shemayim. So they capitalize on the initial natural separation that there is between the creation and its king, the creator. Right? Right, and this was befitting that should be alluded to already from the get-go, right? Because you understand, right? Creation comes from God, and it's juiced up by God, right? And it's and just the opposite, like we explained. The more His kingdom is revealed, the more creation is optimized. So creation belongs with God naturally, and belongs to God as God's kingdom naturally, right? Like we said, now we're going a little bit past the page that you have on your on that link, but we'll make it up next week. But I just want to finish the thought. Like the Chazal tell us, everything that Kodesh Baruch Hu created, He created for His own glory. It's what we said. God's glory is what sustains the world, and the greater the revelation of divine glory, the more optimized the bria becomes. All that's called by my name, right? For my glory, I have created it, fashioned it, and made it. It means say, created all, everything was created for His glory. Can't be. All right, maybe we should stop here, but he's gonna tighten the screw of how this is mukhrach, that the world has to be with Hashem, for Hashem, with Hashem, all right? Because something cannot rebel against His source. All right, we're going to take it up from this page, the next page that you didn't have on that link. We'll take it up from this next time we learn. Keep checking the site for next time. I'll drop a Maharal share. All right, off to a great start. Be'ezer Hashem, try to finish it. If not before Chanukah, then during Chanukah. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, have a good week, everybody.